So on the weekend in Los Angeles, KABC Radio has an endless charade of infomercials that are thinly disguised as radio shows that sound like they might be part of the regular programming of paid on-air talent, but aren't. And Safe Money and Income Radio with Richard Cornfield and Greg Jury is no different. It's an advertisement. Now, I actually don't know for certain that they're selling index annuities. It could be index universal life insurance because they never actually say what it is the hell that they're pushing. They just try to get you to call them. And right off the bat, you have to ask yourself, why can't they say what it is that they're selling? What are they hiding? And I don't know the answer, but I'll bet it's because they know that people are starting to get educated about how annuities are crap financial products. But so index annuities, that's what I'm going to focus on in this review. If it happens to be index universal life insurance that they're selling, I've got videos about this garbage too. Just click through my screen name and watch, for example, my video about Doug Andrew. But so in this commercial, these guys use the same old tired straw man arguments that I've heard a million times. Straw man arguments, shell games, and they present lots and lots of anecdotes instead of actual data. For example, straw man argument. They appeal to naive investors who are ignorant of diversification into bonds and how bonds protect against stock market volatility. And first of all, according to Chris Wang, a fee-only fiduciary advisor with all index annuities, you can expect an annualized return on investment of between 1% and 3% when it's all said and done. But so 1% to 3%, that's way over here on the left side of the risk-return spectrum. Therefore, it's a straw man argument to compare an annuity to the far right side of the spectrum with all or a lot invested in stocks. At one point, this infomercial guy is talking about if you lost 30%, 30%? That's an apples to oranges straw man argument. Remember 2008, stocks alone dropped 36.5%. It is a mathematical fact that in order to lose 30%, you would have had to have been on about 86% in stocks and only 14% in bonds. So how about educating listeners about diversification into bonds? Look at what happened from 2000 until 2016 if you invested only 28% in an S&P 500 index fund and 72% in T-bonds, rebalanced on January 1st of every year, and you were taking out 4% per year in retirement, increasing that 4% rate each year with inflation. You took out $4,000 on January 1st of 2000. By January 2016, you were up to taking $5,687. Look at this. Your nest egg had still grown to $114,871 during the worst of times. And by the way, once you get to a 20-year time horizon, just a 20-year horizon, you can take out between 5.1 and 5.5%, according to the experts. So these guys say that they specialize in wealth management, income planning, and asset protection strategies. Well, then why don't you talk about diversification into bonds? There's no need to dump your money into an annuity. Folks, this is the number one deception that insurance salesmen in general use to try to convince unsophisticated investors into dumping their hard-earned money into annuities. They talk about black swan events or that sinking feeling when you're in an elevator or gambling in Las Vegas. Silly little false anecdotes that don't apply if you simply diversify on the heavy side into bonds. By the way, that's exactly what insurance companies do with your money when you give it to them. They invest 70 to 90% in bonds, or according to William Reichenstein, they invest 94% in bonds. So when these guys say, we stay away from stocks, bonds, mutual funds, and variable annuities, all these are exposed to market losses. Well, according to your logic, if stocks and bonds are too risky, why would I want to touch the insurance product that you're selling? Because if stocks and bonds are going to crash, then insurance companies are going to be dropping like flies. And then what happens to those guarantees promised by the insurance company that's making those index annuity promises to me? I'm screwed. Insurance company guarantees are not guaranteed. Yeah, that's why Richard Cornfield and Greg Jury have a disclaimer at the end of their infomercial stating that basically these products are only backed by the financial strength and claims paying ability of the insurance company. That one single insurance company. Now, the other straw man argument these guys use is to bash brokers. Yeah, nobody should ever go to a broker who is a non-fiduciary or an asset manager who charges you 1% per year to hold your hand while you just buy, hold, and rebalance a couple of index funds. That would be stupid. A fifth grader can do that. But investors have this misconception about financial advisors that they're supposed to beat the market or pull your money to safety in advance of predicting a market crash. And these guys on Safe Money Radio are perpetuating this false notion that you're supposed to time the market. You know, at one point they say, does your broker know when the next black swan event will occur? Well, no, they don't. And I don't need to know in the first place because I'm already diversified into bonds. I decided on day one how much risk I wanted to take. And have you heard the phrase, when stocks fall, money runs to the safety of bonds? And nobody should ever deal with an advisor who tries to sell you an actively managed mutual fund either, because they're expensive and they consistently underperform super low-cost index funds. So the next sleight of hand they use is to say, we never charge you any fees. This, folks, is a complete shell game. With any insurance product that involves investing your money, whether an index annuity, whether index universal life insurance, if there aren't expensive management fees like with variable annuities, then they simply get you in other ways, such as, it might be with lower performance caps, lower participation rates, longer surrender periods, higher surrender penalties, guaranteed income rider fees, the growth of your money during the so-called distribution phase stops, or they put other limits on or reduce the death benefit value of your annuity. In other words, there's more than one way to essentially bill the hell out of you. And guess what? You pay indirectly for the commission that Mr. Insurance Agent or Mr. Advisor earns if and when he sells you that annuity. Again, it's a shell game to say, we never charge you any fees. Nonsense. Now, what about this guaranteed first-year return of up to 10% or up to 7% income that you can never outlive? Now, I don't know what specific product they're selling, but I can tell you that the way these index annuities in general work, if they're actually crediting you with 7% per year during the so-called accumulation phase, this is not money that you can cash out of. If insurance companies were paying out 7% returns year after year, and then consumers could just cash out after 10 years or whatever it may be, insurance companies would go out of business. This is too good to be true. The way these things typically work is that you have to annuitize the contract, and then this bucket of money merely becomes a basis for determining income payment rate for the rest of your life. So that 7% number is not actually annualized return on investment. Insurance companies hire armies of experts in risk, math, and finance called actuaries who stack the deck to make sure that the insurance company will come out the winner. Always remember that insurance companies cannot pay out greater than what a bond-heavy portfolio earns, minus overhead costs and minus the lavish commission that they pay to Mr. Advisor, which with most index annuities is said to be on average between 7 and 10%. Some have been reported as high as 20%. And if they're talking about a 7% distribution phase income payment rate, typically that 7% rate stays the same. And to understand why this is a bad deal, watch the video called Why Immediate Annuities Leave You in Poverty. And in this video, I talk about why accepting these high income payment rates is like deciding that taking a vacation at age 65 is more important than having food and shelter at age 85. Folks, the bottom line, if you need help, hire a fee only fiduciary advisor on a one-time basis and invest in plain old index funds. It can be as simple as owning an S&P 500 index fund and a total bond market index fund. And be sure to study the historical returns of a bond-heavy portfolio so that you understand you're not going to Las Vegas. You're not in an elevator that's going to take your breath away. That's nonsense.